official statistics show that men are more likely to be in paid employment than women, regardless of population group. COVID-19 and lockdowns caused more women to lose their jobs. The recent Momentum UNISA Financial Wellness Index says a financially savvy woman is one who could provide knowledgeable information of her household's finances. We're joined by Nontokozo Madonsela to get a better perspective and a sense of what it is that we are seeing in South Africa. Happy Sunday to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy Sunday.
What is happening that we find ourselves in this situation? One goes to a time before COVID-19 where we were discussing this issue and it seems to have been made worse.
Yeah, so I first want to just say that Momentum and UNISA have had a 10-year relationship where every year we survey several households to understand what's going on in their lives. And Momentum is a brand that is very interested and stands for women, and we want to dig deep to understand how we can equip women, how we can enable them, and how we can support them so that their experiences annually shifts positively. What we see is that sadly COVID has changed everybody's lives and affected several industries. But what is most important is that we learned that a lot of us are mentally depleted, we are exhausted, and because of this exhaustion, we don't tend to make financially wise decisions. Now, in most cases, women tend to take a backseat when it comes to household financial matters. They tend to not know where each cent goes because obviously we are juggling so many balls, we're taking care of the household in other ways, etc. And one of the most important insights for us is that as women, we've got to do a better job at being financially knowledgeable. And that means you've got to know that we've got a financial plan, that whether you are exhausted mentally or not, you still have to think about your savings and your retirement. You've got to make provision for your children if you are a woman with kids. And you've also got to think about your long-term and short-term goals. So sadly, with COVID and with all of the stresses that we are facing, those fundamentals of making sure that our households are good and we as individuals are good remain.
Who are these women? For the longest of time, I remember maybe in my household, at least, I would see whether it's my mother or my aunts, they were right there on the front seat when it comes to money-making decisions.
Yeah. So what we do see is that women of all population in all different groups tend to do less than men because there's always a comparison in terms of gender. What we also see is that mostly women who are in well-to-do environments, who are financially better or stronger in terms of the salaries they earn and the income they make, are not as into the detail of their financial matters. Think about it. So I know, for example, that in my home, the lady who helps me, who doesn't make as much money as I make, is able to say in a month, I am going to be spending so much money on petrol. I need to spend so much money on my groceries. I need to spend so much money in my children's school fees. Me and you have the cards we have in our wallets, and we've got the credit facilities that we have because of obviously of our job standing and social standing, and we don't tend to pay as much attention to those details. So yes, my mother is a lot more wiser financially than what I am. And my mom is a retired teacher. So I think sometimes it's because of almost the perceived abundance that we think we're living in, especially in the affluent home contexts, that the women in those spaces aren't in the detail of what's going on financially like versus the other women.
Perceived abundance, I like that.
Yeah.
You talk about different products that are out there. So in terms of retirement, you talk of, for your children's future when it comes to schooling, that a lot of us are discovering this much later in our lives. It tells us what, especially perhaps about, financial education from a very young level.
Yeah, so, some of us, I'm not different than a lot of women, is that we often prioritize indulgence and wants, and we put our head in the sand when it comes to financial planning. We don't have to do that anymore, and because I work in financial services, I have access to exceptionally good financial planners and financial advisors. And for me, like, I'm 44 today, and it's
looking good.
Thank you so much. It's too late to be thinking about retirement. Think about it at 44. And having been here now, I think about what decisions I would have made had I had this wisdom and this experience when I got my first job and my first paycheck. So I think what is important is for women who are younger specifically, and anybody who is younger, when, you know, those who are graduating and fortunate enough in this economy to be getting jobs and good paying jobs, to always seek financial advice and have a good financial planner alongside you, who at least is going to help you think about the absolute essentials. And a lot of people can't afford to retire today. And some of us, you know, especially the millennials, I mean, I'm not a millennial, but I think that, you know, I can afford to retire and live in a golf course and play golf every day and have a few businesses. And that's not the reality of life, and the numbers show different.
At the heart of it, we're here to talk about the gender pay gap. How do you achieve all of that, or how do you rectify that, especially for those who are entering into the job market, when we still find that women are getting paid less than men?
Yeah, so gender pay gap is something that's existed, you know, beyond our years, and it happens as a consequence of a variety of reasons. One, there's mostly men who tend to have senior jobs or big paying jobs than women, and secondly, women tend to take leave, whether it's for maternity or any other home caring activity that they need to do. So as a consequence, then they are just always going to be off balance. But what is important is knowing that we can't rectify the fact that for every 100 rand that's paid to a guy, so a woman gets 72 rand. We're not going to change that tomorrow. The question becomes, what do I do with what I have now? And what I do with what I have now requires me as a woman, one, to be financially knowledgeable, meaning know where all the money goes. Two, to have a good financial plan, meaning I must also think about insurance, retirement, savings, even though it's not fun stuff to talk about. And three, to always plan for emergencies, because most of us, when there's a crisis in our lives, we tend to get expensive debt or expensive credit because, you know, we've got to solve situations and support our families or whatever the reason we may encounter or we may have come to. So I think just having that mindset of, you know, whatever I am getting, what am I putting aside for emergencies? Whatever I'm getting, who is advising me, and how am I thinking about savings and retirement and medical aid and all of those other things that are necessities in life. And then thirdly, to plan. If I'm going to have a holiday, we all want to go on holiday. If I'm going to buy Christmas gifts, you know, it's January. So how much could I be putting aside now? Because the reality of the salary I earn and the pay gap is there.
And then you have this dynamic where it's January and you find a lot of women who are already stretched because you've got children to look after or you've got extended family to look after. And so when you tell me to save for tomorrow when I already do not have money, or when you tell me to plan, you know, for the future when I already do not have money, where do I go to? Is a financial advisor free? Do I go to a bank? What do I do?
Yeah. So at most insurance companies, if not all insurance companies, are financial advisors. At Momentum, I'm here for Momentum. We have them. Just go on momentum.co.za and reach out. Somebody is there to help you. The most important thing, I think, is changing the mindset. The most important thing is not being, because it's hard to talk about money. It's hard to think you failed and, you know, you're 44 and you don't have the right plan in place. It is embarrassing. You know, it's hard to do it. But, you know, they say better now than never. So I think financial advice and financial planners are there to assist us. And I think the second thing is, especially as women, and in our project where we encourage women to own their success, you know, we talk about this every August, we need to normalize having conversations about money. I think us girls will talk about, you know, our dating lives, what's going on with our kids, you know, whatever other ambitions and dreams we have, but we don't talk about money. And I think we need to change that. We see some celebrities are talking about.
Is this not this perceived affluence issue that's the problem, where you want everybody to think that the grass is greener on the other side, even though the water bill is more expensive?
I know. But, like, I've got friends around me who you know, even some of my siblings are better with money than what I am sometimes. And I think just talking to the level that you are comfortable with the people closest to you, it helps. Because I think you won't know what you don't know. And it might be, you know, I remember the one conversation I had at the office a long time ago. And it happened to be between me and a guy. And this guy said his principle is that he takes whatever money he was not planning to have and puts it in a savings account. What is that money? Tax refund by SARS and bonus. You are not guaranteed your bonus.
Sure.
And your refund is not guaranteed. So as a principle, I liked that. And that was like literally a desk across me.
That's all it takes. Thank you very much for coming and being a desk across from me. Nontokozo Madonsela is a financial expert and helping us get some tips in terms of what we can do to save. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.